take two. Did you feel that? That chill? Oh, she is definitely here. If you feel cold air whisked by you for no reason and you're not by an open door or window, listen to this. In the world of spirit, that means someone from the other side, someone who is dead, has come for a visit. Hi, Mom. Oh, my mother, let me just say this. My mother is much happier dead than she was alive. Excuse me, boy, my rhinestones are cut. Okay. For months, my mom has severe lower back pain. She thought she had pulled a muscle, had a slipped disc, or a pinched nerve, but we weren't expecting to hear cancer of the spine. Oh, there was great talk of hope and possibility from her oncologist, of course. It was bullshit. Underlying the lying was the chaos of cancer. Fear, pain, suffering, scary and loud. Claire, I'm sorry to tell you that your cancer has metastasized to the bone at the base of your spine, but the good news is it hasn't spread to any other organs or lymph nodes. The good news, really? After I heard cancer, I didn't really hear anything else at all. Blah, 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 chemo, blah, 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 site-specific, blah, 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 death. Well, her doctor didn't say death, but I heard it. I knew my mom's contract was up. I knew it. So back and forth from Scottsdale, where we were living at the time, my husband, my son, and myself, we went back and forth like ping pong balls. Back and forth and back and forth. And when the phone rang at home, it didn't matter what part of the house I was in. I could be standing right there where the phone was ringing, right next to it, but I wouldn't answer it. I'd yell for my husband, Richard. He'd come and answer that phone so I could watch his face. That was our routine. Then came the phone call where Richard had a different look on his face. My mom had taken a turn for the worse. She was now in excruciating pain and would be going back to the hospital again. But this time something had shifted. Something had changed, even in the quality of the sunlight. So I packed my bags for an extended stay and would live in my mom's room at Cedars and be there. Present, accountable, radically vulnerable, but I'd be really there. And that was that. At night, the hospital playing field is leveled. The graveyard shift tells a story of too little, too late, too much, too often, and no one available to do the to-do list. 5 times a night, I'd wake up to the alarm clock of my mother moaning in pain. No real sleep for me during my 6-week stint at Cedars. I'd get up, I'd change her diaper, shift her in bed, I'd massage her feet, give her a neck rub, try to make her comfortable to ease her pain. Then I'd give her her meds. Then I'd give her a kiss. And then, wide awake, I'd take a little tiny bite of Ambien and walk the darkened hallways of the whole 7th floor like Marley's ghost until the Ambien kicked in. There were many middle of the nights where I walked and cried, crying and walking and crying, bawling my eyes out. And I would often silent scream the way babies do just before they have a temper tantrum. Oh, and I railed at God. Not because I knew my mom was dying, no, but because her life had been so very sad. My mother's life was filled with secrets, deep loss, fear, broken dreams and promises left undone. My mom believed the world was not a safe place, and she made sure she was right. My mother and I had a difficult, sometimes contentious, always frustrating relationship, fueled by her fierce love, always fraught with fear. My mother's first response to any request from me was, "No, you can't. No, you won't. No, you shouldn't." As I turned away in resigned disgust, my whispered rebellious response was always, yes, I can. Yes, I will. Of course I should. And then I'd sneak out of the house and do it all. And then there were those times where my mother's incessant demands pushed me over the edge into fuck you land. My fuck yous to my mother managed to get me grounded from front row tickets to the Beatles concert at the Hollywood Bowl, the Rolling Stones concert that came a few months later, the Sunset Strip, and Monterey Pop. I want the names of everyone who's going, the phone number of the parents who you're going with, and the boy who's driving. I want to see his driver's license. That was the drill, and it drove me nuts. And like a storm rolling in from the desert, my father would see it coming. He'd be standing behind my mother, signaling me like this. Shh, don't. I couldn't not do it. I couldn't stop myself. Fuck you! Then her pivot to my father clinched my faith. Jack Grounder. My father didn't want it, but he now had to. And then there was the time I was grounded for the whole summer. Just because I was curious and I chose to hang out with what my mother called the riffraff. But I wanted to know what living on the wrong side of the tracks meant. So what if the guy I was hanging out with in summer school was shooting heroin and was a drug dealer? I was on my way to becoming a theater major, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating and very important for a soon-to-be actress to learn about all kinds of people. Not just my insular, homogenized, perky life with my perky friends in perky Westwood Village. Right, Michelle? While living in the hospital, I just kept remembering all the times growing up when I screamed at my mother at the top of my lungs. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I wish you were dead. So, it was Christmas Eve, 1967. I heard the phone ring in the middle of the night. My mother let out a shriek of a cry. I had never heard anything like that before. But I knew what that sinking feeling in my stomach meant. My dad had just died of pancreatic cancer, 3 months after he was diagnosed. So I whispered a scream to God, "No, you took the wrong parent." So now here I was, back in my mom's hospital room, living with her 24/7, sleeping in a chair recliner, fine dining at the hospital cafeteria, keeping myself open to having an experience of this experience while I was experiencing it. My mother was dying. We both knew it, didn't need to say it. We hunkered down, cuddled in her hospital bed, watched Judge Judy, laughed our asses off, and reviewed the very different versions of the same stories we both had lived through. We actually heard each other's point of view. I finally could hear her side of things, and she finally heard mine. What blew me away was when she actually apologized for being so unreasonable and mean, and for depriving me of so many historic moments of my generation. And then she said she was sorry for being a bad mother. The moment she said that saved me years of therapy and a lot of money. Thanks, Mom. We held hands tight, looked into each other's wet, juicy eyeballs. Right then, in spite of it all, I knew with every cell in my body that my mother loved me, really loved me. She fiercely loved me. And that was the gift that my time in the hospital had given me. And then one Sunday, she said, "You need to go back to Scottsdale. Your son needs you." And I knew that this would be the last time I would see my mom alive. We had accomplished a miracle. Those last 6 weeks, we had said everything we needed to say. And we said it to each other. A lot, without words. Just a knowingness between two women who had traveled a very difficult life together, filled with anger, loss, disappointment, fear, frustration, love, and lots of laughter. One great thing my mom taught me was to celebrate everything. She used to say, Rahla, celebrate a sneeze if it will bring family and friends together. And at the end, she taught me what unconditional love meant as our roles reversed. No guilt or shame for things not done or left unsaid. So on that Sunday afternoon, we said goodbye. We looked into each other's eyes deeply and soulfully. Our eyes welled with tears, but we didn't cry. We kissed our last kiss and rubbed noses the way we always did. Eskimo kisses my mother taught me when I was little. Our last Eskimo kiss. We were no longer mother and daughter, no longer patient and caregiver. We were having an in-the-body, out-of-body experience. Two souls completing a contract. Outside of time, all in love. The following Saturday at 10 a.m. on January 23rd, my mom died. We got the call. I looked at Richard's face and I knew. Ooh. Did you just feel that? Did you just get a chill? Hi, Mom. Thank you. So before I get the microphone back here, I wanted to throw a little curveball at Isabel. So tonight, 4 years ago, at this exact spot, I told my very first ever in my life spoken word story. So tonight's my 4-year anniversary, and you can applaud. Because there are people here, there's people that were at that night, I know. So I want to thank you, Isabel, for creating a community that has been one of the highlights of my life, and I know so many others. And it has a particular energy, and that's a reflection of you. Very inclusive, very loving, lots of laughter, and she puts up with this. So it's been a joy, and I wanted to thank you personally for including me many times. So this one's for you.